Hello everyone. Today we'll read about the story The Gift of Magi. Now we want to start. $1.87. That was all. She had put aside 1 cent and then another and then another, in her careful baying of meat and another food and other food. Dial counted in their time is $1.87, and the next day would be Christmas. There was nothing to do but fall in the bed and cry, so Diala did it. While the lady of the home is a slowly growing culture, we look at the home, furnished, furnished room at the cost $8 a week. There a little more to say about it. In the whole pillow was a letter box too small to hold a letter. There was an article bill, but it's called not make a sound. Also, there was a name beside the door, Mr. James Dillingham Young. When the name was placed there, Mr. James Dillingham Young was being paid $30 a week. Now, when he was being paid only $20 a week, the name seemed too long and important. It should perhaps have been Mr. James Dillingham Young. But when Mr. James Dillingham Young entered the finished room, his name became very short-ended, Merce James Dillingham Young, put her arms warmly about him and called him James. You have already met her. She is Diala. Diala finished her crying and cleaned the market of it from her face. She stood by the window and looked out with no interest. Tomorrow would be Christmas Day, and she had only $1.87 with which to buy a gift. A gift. She had put aside as much as she could for a month. With this result, $20 a week is not much. Everything had cost more than she had expected. It always happened like that. $1.87 to buy a gift for a gem. Her gem. She had had many happy hours planning something nice for him. Something something nearly good enough. Something almost worth the honor of belonging to Jim. There was a looking glass between the window of the room. Perhaps you have seen the kind of looking glass that is placed in 80 finished room. It was very narrow. A person could see all a little of himself at the window at the time. However, if he was very thin and moved very quickly, he might be able to get a good view of himself. Diala being quit that he had mastered this art. Suddenly she turned from the window and stood before the glass. Her eyes were shining brightly, but her face had lost its color. Quickly she pulled down her hair and let it fall to its complete length. The James Dillingham Young were very proud of two things which they owned. One thing was James' gold watch. It had once belonged to his father, and long ago it had belonged to his father's father. The other thing was Yala hair. If a queen had lived in the room near theirs, Yala would have washed and dried her hair where the queen could see it. Yala knew her hair was more beautiful than any queen jewels and gift. If a king had lived in the same house with all his riches, Jim would have looked at his watch every time they met. Jim knew that no king had anything so valuable. So now Diala's beautiful hair fell about her, shining like a filling stream of brown water. It raced below her knee. It almost made itself into a dress for her, and then she put out up on her head again, nervously and quickly. Once she stopped for all a moment and stood still while a tear or two ran down her face. She put on her old brown coat. She put on her old brown hat with the bright light still in her eyes. She moved quickly out of the door and down to the street where she stopped. The thing said most suffering hair article of an all kinds. Up to the second floor the other ran, and stopped to get her berth. Mr. Suffering, a large, too wise, cold-eyed, looked at her. "Will you pay my hair?" asked Yella. "I pay hair," said Miss Safrina. "Take your hat off and let me look it." Down fell at the brown waterfall. $20, said Mr. Safrina, lifting the hair to feel its white. "Give it to me quickly." "Quick," said Yella. Oh, and the next 2 hours seemed to fly. She was going from a shop to another to find him a gift. She found it at the last. It surely had been made for Jim and no one else. There was no other like it any of the shops, and she had looked in every shop in the city. It was a gold watch chain, very simply made. Its avail its value was in its rich and poor material, because it was so plain and simple. You know that it was very valuable. All good things are like this. It was good enough for to watch. As soon as she saw it, she knew that Jim must have it. It was like him, quaintness and value. Jim and the Shane both had quaintness and value. She paid $21 for it, and she hurried home the Shane and the 80 70 cents. And thank you for listening. And the next part will be in the next video. And thank you very much.